Now we have to think about what is aliveness because this is a mysterious concept. We take it for granted. It's self-evident that we're alive, right? What makes me alive? Well, we have a beating heart, we have breathing lungs, we have a thinking brain, we have a mind-body connection, we have some very mysterious things happening here with consciousness and a spirit and a soul. And this aliveness, the ancient Chinese mystics gave it a name. They called it qi. Qi means you're alive. And I was once explaining qi to somebody, a Western medicine person, a very scientific oriented mindset. And he said, you know what? I don't believe in qi. And I was like, okay, well, do you believe you're alive? And he was like, well, of course I'm alive. I was like, well, what do we call that aliveness? And he's like, well, we really don't have a word for it because we don't understand it fully. We don't, it's a mystery. We don't know how the heartbeat started some 9 weeks in utero. It's all of a sudden just started boom, 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 boom. We call that heart chi, the aliveness of your heart. And each of your internal organs in Chinese medicine would have a particular kind of aliveness. So you have liver chi, you have kidney chi, and then you have this thing where they all have to communicate together. And this life force energy, this aliveness has an organizing power in it. It somehow has this quantum intelligence where one part knows what's happening with the other part. And this is such an incredible phenomena that we can't fully explain it. If we look at anything deeply enough within you, you run into something mysterious. You run into this invisible life force energy. And a mystic is somebody who understands or who pays attention to or who works with invisible life force energy. And in Qigong, we say life is ruled by invisible forces. What do we mean by that? Life is ruled by invisible forces. The aliveness within you is an invisible force. We take for granted all these things that are invisible forces, like, for example, gravity. Gravity is an invisible force, and it's ruling our lives because it keeps us connected to the earth. So in terms of qi, we might say it is life force energy. And we can look at this thing called energy and look at it from Eastern mysticism, Western science. And we start to understand, well, energy is a force. And we have 4 different kinds of energies that we might describe in Western science. We have gravity, we have electromagnetism, and we have then atomic energy. We have the strong force and the weak force. But in Chinese medicine, or maybe let's say in mysticism, we have another kind of force, another kind of energy that we call life force energy. Life force energy, every culture, especially in shamanistic times, every culture had a word for life force energy. In China, it was qi. In Ayurvedic medicine or in Indian mysticism, it was called prana. Jewish mysticism had a word for it, roh. There was all kinds of, in Hawaiian, they have a word for it, and that's what they celebrate, the hula. In Native American cultures, there's a word for it. Every culture had a word for this life force energy, and it was mystical. The beautiful thing is that we can work with it. We can't fully describe or conceptualize it and put it in a box, in a conceptual framework, because it just is out of that conceptual framework. It is something mysterious. And don't forget that you are mysterious, that you have this life force energy within you, that you have aliveness. We call qi the animating power in your body. So when we do qigong, we're going to be moving our bodies. So if you move your body, we say, how did you do that? Well, I gave an intention for my mind to lift my arms up and down. Why don't you guys try that? Just lift your arms up and then let your arms come down. It's so effortless, you barely have to think about it. Just lift up and down. How did that happen? This is called voluntary movement, right? I said, hey, lift your arms up and down. And you said, mind, move this body. And it went, whoa. Okay, that's how we did it. But it's something really interesting because there's so many things happening between an intention in your mind and the movement in your body. voluntarily moved our bodies. But there's also all these involuntary movement happening in your body, right? Right now, your heart's beating, but you're not voluntarily saying beat. You're not going relax, contract, relax, contract, relax, contract. Your lungs are breathing, but you're not having to think about it. You're not having to say inhale, exhale, right? Your lunch, your breakfast, your digestion is working, but you're not having to think about it. What an amazing mystical system that we have. Your mind is always moving. There's always energy moving in your mind. Most of the thoughts in your mind, you're not voluntarily thinking about. They just bubble up to the surface and they just keep flowing all day long. You go to sleep and you're dreaming and you're breathing. So that all this involuntary movement and activity. So we say chi, the aliveness of you, chi is constantly moving. And the one thing constant about this universe is that it's always in motion. In an expanding universe, everything's in motion. And so when we do Qigong practices, we're trying to align ourselves with the aliveness of the universe around us, the aliveness of nature, the aliveness of the planet Earth, the aliveness of the universe. And we start to move our bodies in harmony with the way the universe is moving. Then our aliveness is supported. It's kind of like a river, right? Sometimes we're swimming upstream and we're efforting and we're struggling. And even though we're still going downstream, we're fighting against the current. And when you fight against the current, you have no vision. You hit the rocks. You get hung up on the banks. You get tangled up in the bushes. But if you turn around and your whole system expresses the current of the river, you can voluntarily move yourself to avoid the rocks, to find the slip streams, to not get hung up on the banks. And now you're in flow. So when your aliveness and the aliveness of nature all around you is in harmony, we find a particular flow. So aliveness is what we're born with. We come into this world and what do? The first thing you do is you take a breath. And the last thing you're going to do is you're going to exhale. We come in with an inhale, we go out with an exhale. And in between, there's a rhythm. Inhale, exhale, exhale. So aliveness comes in rhythms, small rhythms and large rhythms. The beating of your heart, boom, 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 boom. Expand, contract, expand, contract. Inhale, exhale. Wake up, go to sleep. Aliveness always happens in rhythms and in seasons. And so sometimes we want to express the aliveness of the yin energy, and sometimes we're expressing the aliveness of the yang energy. Yang energy is wake up in the morning, get active, do things that we want, get inspired. The yin energy is relax, unwind, go to sleep. And yin and yang have to be in harmony for this aliveness to fully be expressed.